Yeah.
And you weren't really sparring. You were fighting. We were fighting all the time. And guys getting dropped all the time. And that was just the kind of gym that I was in.
There's no coming back from that. The people who, like, dissipate their teeth through drug usage, you don't get, like, a second set.
Didn't look like he got out of first gear. Jake Paul was just on pure survival mode from round 1 right through to round 6. I don't know if he's got a moral victory going 6 rounds. Maybe he has. People might give him credit for going 6 rounds. But he got in there and just survived. He just went in there and ran like a chicken from round 1 right through to round 6 when he got splattered.
Joe Rogan was absolutely shocked. So this situation really shook people up in ways nobody expected. And when I say shook up, I mean it genuinely caught everyone off guard. The reaction was intense, filled with this raw conviction that boxing presents real life-threatening dangers that go way beyond casual weekend entertainment risks.
You can't think, you can't do things, you don't know what you're doing in life. It's like literally everything is the quality of your ability to think. And I knew that I was putting that in jeopardy.
Joe Rogan, what grabbed everyone's attention was how this incident highlighted something crucial about continuing to compete after taking this level of punishment. We're looking at consequences that don't stay in the gym, that follow you everywhere, affecting your cognitive abilities and basic daily functioning for years down the road.
Here's the thing. Look at all them celebrities like dude from the Mighty Ducks, the little boy actor that got strung out on drugs. And all his fronts and all his teeth were missing from being on meth or whatever, you know what I mean, whatever drug of choice he was on. There's no coming back from that. The people who, like, dissipate their teeth through drug usage, you don't get, like, a second set. So if I'm not mistaken, the dude from Mighty Ducks, somebody, like, he's been clean, and they gave him a makeover, and he has, like, pretty much fake teeth. So, yeah, the teeth are going to be cooked. Now, I agree with the other part that Rogan was saying, but let's keep going.
Yeah, I think he went into that fight knowing that was probably going to happen. Yeah. And ultimately, the big win for him would be that he was even willing to do it and that he could do well for a little bit.
Yeah, and I've already expressed my thoughts on this. I'm not giving no props for a person who says I am a real deal boxer because I went in and get smashed and got my jaw broken, but I lasted longer than Ngannou. But I was crazy enough to try. Because, to be honest, we're way past the honeymoon stage with a person like Jake Paul. You've been in this for long enough to go through fight camps, dedicate your time, effort, energy, money, spar with people. You spar with some quality names because you have resources and money or whatever. So we're well past that to the point where you just get credit for stepping in. You maybe got credit your first fight or whatever, first couple of fights, for coming from your background.
Medical professionals have stepped forward with urgent warnings about these types of injuries, carrying permanent effects that rest and recovery simply cannot fix. They're being completely direct about how engaging in this level of risk can fundamentally alter your entire existence as a human being. When your life gets turned upside down like this, everything you once knew disappears.
So that's usually what happened. What was always going to happen. You know, a lot of people thought it would only last 1 round, 2 rounds, but you got to give Jake credit. He went out there and had a solid game plan and was implementing it at times. Was landing shots and was avoiding getting hit with the big shots. But there's a reason we have weight categories in boxing, and I'd say he sticks with the cruiserweight division where the guys are the same size as him, because that, without having the schooling, the many years, I was able to give away 100 pounds in weight because I've been boxing since I was 10. I was an international amateur and world champion at cruiserweight. That's why I was able to do the big jump and use the tactics that he used to win the heavyweight championship. But credit to him, nothing but respect for Jake Paul for putting on such an event and putting himself in harm's way.
I would imagine some people back home for you are going to say, man, AJ should have gotten out of there in 2 rounds.
Anyone who understands boxing knows it's very difficult to close the range on someone who doesn't want to hold his feet. And is AJ supposed to just run around swinging and missing? No, he's supposed to wait for the right opportunity, which he did. And once the opportunity presented himself, he landed and the fight was over. But anyone who kind of gives AJ stick because he didn't knock him out in one round, doesn't understand boxing.
What level would you say Jake Paul is after that performance?
Pardon?
What level would you say Jake
It's
Paul
hard,
is?
it's hard to tell. It's very, very difficult to see what level he was because he was fighting someone in the top five in the world. So
Strong warnings have emerged, and I mean seriously forceful advice urging reconsideration of these increasingly dangerous high-stakes matchups. The message is urgent that no professional accomplishments, no financial gains, no public recognition justifies putting your actual existence and well-being on the line.
Not boxers like Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley. None of them are boxers. Nate Robinson, who's a YouTuber. So I guess, over the hill, retired Mike Tyson, who's 60, almost lost his life before the fight and had blood transfusions and was coughing up blood and was transported off of a plane for passing out. And Jake Paul wanted to fight him and still tried to knock him out. A lot of y'all like to say he had mercy on Mike, but I promise you, I watched the fight. Just go back and watch it again. He was trying to knock Mike Tyson out from beginning to end. He could not do it. The reason he couldn't do it is because he refused to get too close to Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson always would swing back, and he knew could not take that punch from Mike Tyson. So he hit and he ran. And at the end of the fight, he was not showing mercy on Mike. He was trying to make sure that he doesn't get knocked out or caught with something stupid, because he knows he's about to win. He didn't want to risk it. I'm not going to keep letting y'all run with this narrative that Mike Tyson was following a script with all these fake script posts running around on Facebook, or saying that he...
After that recent clash with Anthony Joshua, the aftermath was genuinely devastating. We witnessed severe trauma that went far beyond superficial wounds, including a shattered jaw and several teeth completely knocked out, requiring immediate surgical treatment and extended rehabilitation.
Break him down. He said before the fight, I'm going to break him down and then I'm going to knock him out. And that's exactly what he did. I thought it'd be all over within 3 rounds. But, when I got in the ring after, because I was shouting, just, anywhere, armed. I got in, he went, what are you rushing me for? And I was like, oh, sorry. So, but like, obviously he knows what he's doing, and actually now quite pleased that we got the rounds, to be honest.
Yeah, I saw you said that. Really random, I was on Twitter and I saw Jake Paul's mom said she wants to get in the ring and punch you. She said she doesn't like the smug look on your face. She is promoting her book, so I'm not sure if she wants, But did you see that? What did you think of that?
No, I was very sad, because I couldn't have been nicer and more respectful of Jake and what he's done. And I think Logan's amazing. I think he's an incredible athlete. And I shook Jake Paul's dad's hand in the ring, And if I would have seen Mum, I would have said, all right. But I think over the years, we've obviously had our beef, and she probably don't like me anyway. And I am probably a little bit smug. I wasn't smug after the fight, because I would have been more smug if it was all over in a round. Yeah. So, no, I'll give Jake respect. And, sorry, Jake's mum doesn't like me, but if she can send me a free book.
The pattern here shows something undeniable about pursuing this dangerous route against these caliber opponents, potentially resulting in irreversible harm that becomes your permanent reality. The thrill and public attention these major spectacles generate comes with an incredibly steep price paid with your own physical and mental health.
Tests. Stopped on his feet, counted out, knocked out, whatever, however you want to call it. It wasn't a bad knockout. It wasn't an El Sparko. He wasn't rendered unconscious, but he got done. He got it on the chin. He went over. He didn't beat the count. He was sort of up on his feet. But if I'm honest, the whole fight was terrible, wasn't it? It was just so bad. It was just shit, wasn't it? A proper bad fight for AJ. And let me start with AJ. AJ was following him around the ring a little bit, sort of pouring with the jab, putting the jab on the shoulder of Jake Paul, sort of putting him in the corner, and not really pulling the trigger on the right hand. He didn't seem to be motivated to go in there and just smash Jake Paul into oblivion in the first 1 or 2 rounds, which I think he could have done. But he's been out of the ring 15 months. He's a bit slow on his feet, a bit ring rust maybe, and he was it's hard. When I used to spar novice amateurs, even when I was a world champion pro, if you're not motivated, sometimes you can have a couple of bad rounds and you're sort of looking at your opponent and a jab hits you or right hand hits you. And I think AJ was in a bit of a daze early on. Just walking him around, touching the jab on his shoulder, not really pulling the trigger on the right hand. Didn't look like he got out of first gear. Jake Paul was just on pure survival mode from round 1 right through to round 6. I don't know if he's got a moral victory going 6 rounds. Maybe he has. People might give him credit for going 6 rounds. But he got in there and just survived. He just went in there and ran like a chicken from round 1 right through to round 6 when he got splattered. And it's like, it's just, you can't really justify what he's done, because this is supposed to be a professional sanctioned boxing match. And I think it brings the integrity of the sport down when somebody like AJ is a 2-time world champion, can't get in there and just completely dismiss somebody like Jake Paul, who I've said for ages can't fight. He's not a professional boxer. It's just AJ following him around, touching him to the shoulder. Round 1 came and went. Round 2 was much of the same, bit slow. I think AJ got caught with an overhand right at one stage, but sometimes when you're out in the rain, you're going to get wet. He was following him around, taking his eye off the ball, probably a bit undermotivated, thinking, what's this guy doing that's in front of me? Jake Paul was just running.
The message being sent to competitors and observers is that personal wellness and long-term health must always supersede any temporary glory inside those ropes, because victories mean nothing if you lack the mental capacity to recall them happening.
Train, or you put on a pair of boxing gloves. That does not mean that you will be perceived as legitimate. It doesn't mean people will be willing to pay to watch you fight. Me personally, I was done with Jake Paul after the pretend fight that he had with Mike Tyson last year. Clearly, I'm not the only one, because viewership for his fight last weekend with Anthony Joshua, it was significantly lower than a real fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the main channels in the description below. There are a lot of allegations right now that the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua was rigged, or it was supposed to be rigged. According to the conspiracy theories, Jake Paul was supposed to win the fight, but Anthony Joshua decided to knock his ass out anyway. If it was supposed to be rigged, it would not be the first time that a fight in boxing was stained with corruption. But either way, it doesn't matter, because interest in seeing Jake Paul fight is on the decline. His fight last weekend averaged 33 million views on Netflix. Now, to his credit, that is a great number.
David Hayes stepped up with a detailed breakdown, explaining exactly why Anthony Joshua didn't finish Jake Paul in the opening round. And when you examine his reasoning, it actually holds up pretty well under scrutiny.
Action to Anthony Joshua knocking out and breaking Jake Paul's jaw. Just talk to me right now about the fight itself, and then we'll break it down.
Bit of a crap fight, if we're all honest. It was like watching Jaws 2 when all the kids went out on their boats and they were in the middle of the sea, and the shark was just surrounding the boat, just like that's what it was like. It was just like. It was like a shark circling its prey, and just like, it was like nibbling, and eventually got him. But Jake Paul showed big plums in there, no matter what anybody says about him, because I've seen people say, yeah, he went in there to survive. Yeah, okay, he went in there to survive. He's a guy that's been boxing a couple of years against a unified champion of the world who can really punch. Yeah, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best fight. It just wasn't the best thing to watch, was it? Like it was just, yeah, it weren't great. I just want to see now Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua. I think at the stages of their careers they're at, AJ and Tyson Fury, we don't need to see interim fights, Andrew. We don't need to see interim fights because they're just potential banana skins. We want to see two of the best heavyweights of this era going at it.
He pointed out that despite Joshua not delivering those devastating early finishers, Jake still walked away with serious damage, which reveals something important about how this sport actually functions.
It reminded me of, like, you know, like when you've got a fly on the windscreen and you're trying to swat it, and you're trying to swat it and you miss and you keep tapping, and then eventually, bang, you get it. That's exactly what that fight was. Jake Paul didn't get in there to win last night. He got in there to survive. And he didn't do a better job of surviving. He sold the fight brilliantly. That's what he is. He's a salesman. And he's a YouTuber, influencer, call him whatever you want. So from that perspective, he did his job, but he never got in there to win. He just got in there to get beat up. I'm glad Anthony Joshua done a number on him. This is why boxers are boxers, YouTubers, whatever they want to call themselves, influencers, you know, they should stay in their lane and fight people that they're supposed to fight on their level. This guy was never on Anthony Joshua's level, and Joshua did what he needed to do, did what he had to do for the sake of boxing, and blow this guy out and just knock him out.
What about the fact that Jake was able to land on him clean a couple of times? What did you make of that?
Oh, listen, you can't get into the water without getting hit. Fortunately for Joshua, that guy can't break an egg. So he was never in any danger. You know, he's always going to get hit back. I mean, you know, it was 6 rounds. Anthony Joshua was always going to take at least 1 or 2 shots over that 6-round period, but it was nothing to hurt him. It was nothing to bother him. And like I say, this is all about getting AJ's confidence back. Okay. If Jake Paul fights, if he fights KSI or KFC or whatever his name is, then those two are evenly matched, aren't they? They're evenly matched, and then they could fight, you know, and then because the
effort he gave. Now, I know it's not easy to fight a guy that's running away from you, and Jake Paul made a ring bigger. It was 22 by 22 as
it's
opposed
huge
to
ring. When I was looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, this ring's massive.
I had said before the fight, I tweeted, I said, it was like a soccer field that they were, you know, fighting in, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not easy to do that, but he just looked poor in there and like he didn't really care. And, you know, you're being paid that much money and people are, you know, I looked at tickets today just to see on their ticket map how many tickets were left and what it was like. And there was tickets being sold for $3,500. And then this is the kind of performance, if you're AJ, that you give when you're being paid $35 million and people are paying that much money to get in. I thought that was, you know, the whole show was awful. Netflix ought to be embarrassed for putting that on, but that main event was just wow bad.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time. Hay stressed through his professional insight that boxing doesn't operate like those instant knockout moments from action films or social media clips, where single strikes immediately end everything. What transpired was Jake maintaining mobility throughout the ring, staying active, and dodging those powerful shots that might have concluded things rapidly, demonstrating at least some defensive intelligence. But here's the essential detail that fans need to grasp about this sport: the buildup of punishment. The continuous barrage of strikes connecting across several rounds ultimately extracted a heavy price on his physical condition and fighting capacity. Hay made clear, and this matters for audiences to understand, that Joshua deserves no criticism for failing to eliminate Jake instantly during those opening moments. Professional boxing involves much more than wildly swinging for immediate finishes, requiring fight control, strategic execution, and accurate combinations that compound throughout the contest. These elements carry far greater importance than desperate early knockout attempts. Even though Jake survived those initial rounds and weathered the early storm, the total punishment he absorbed during the entire fight demonstrates exactly how perilous this sport becomes, even when facing calculated attacks from experienced opponents fighting intelligently rather than recklessly. Boxing experts worldwide are becoming increasingly outspoken and worried about Jake Paul's professional direction, and they're recommending with genuine concern that he carefully evaluate whether to continue competing at this championship level. They're highlighting something longtime boxing enthusiasts have recognized, which is that during his complete professional journey so far, Paul has consistently avoided genuinely dangerous elite competitors who could properly challenge his abilities. His opponents have frequently included former fighters well beyond their peak years, inexperienced competitors lacking professional credentials, or athletes transitioning from different combat sports like mixed martial arts, where striking fundamentals differ completely. This approach has left serious boxing watchers questioning the authenticity of his seemingly impressive professional record. This consistent pattern of strategic matchmaking has maintained fan and media uncertainty because Paul has never repeatedly depredicted himself against premium competition during their athletic prime, the type of fighters who would truly reveal any technical deficiencies. Following devastating knockout defeats against both Anthony Joshua and Tommy Fury, experts argue that the dangers he previously sidestepped have finally confronted him directly. They're highlighting with genuine worry that his earlier approach of avoiding serious threatening contests enabled him to preserve what appeared like solid credentials on paper, establishing credibility among casual viewers who didn't examine his actual opposition closely. These recent crushing losses expose something that cannot be overlooked any longer, suggesting he may have reached the complete conclusion of his practical boxing future, particularly at this competitive tier. What genuinely concerns the professionals is their belief that continued competition, especially versus elite opposition, presents extreme health risks, potentially creating lasting damage that no financial compensation or public recognition could possibly warrant. Eddie Hearn examines the complete situation with his characteristic measured, thoughtful approach, and he sincerely feels that everything during that contest developed precisely as intended, which becomes fascinating upon reflection. He describes thoroughly how the tactical approach entering the ring always focused on composure, sustaining dominance across each round, and systematically breaking down Jake Paul both physically and psychologically before capitalizing when the moment arrived. Though Hearn acknowledges that originally, before the opening bell, he anticipated much faster resolution, possibly even an early round finish, he eventually became truly pleased that the contest extended beyond expectations, allowing their meticulously planned strategy to completely unfold and showcase Joshua's total superiority. He remembers with sharp detail particular instances during the fight, when Joshua remained entirely calm and untroubled by Jake's attempts, displaying complete confidence and tactical awareness that emerges only through extensive experience at championship levels. For Hearn, reviewing the complete performance, this contest demonstrated without question Joshua's wisdom, his tactical intelligence, and his capacity to implement strategic plans under intense pressure. He also dismisses all the external criticism and internet commentary that predictably emerges following any significant fight, stating clearly with slight amusement that none of that digital noise or amateur analysis detracts from the actual outcome or the brilliant performance they executed inside those ropes. Boxing professionals throughout the sport are stating definitively that Jake Paul's latest fight ruthlessly revealed the boundaries of his legitimacy in professional boxing, and they're not moderating their evaluation. They describe with obvious frustration that simply putting on gloves and entering a ring doesn't automatically create a legitimate competitor, and all the publicity and marketing buildup possible cannot maintain genuine interest when the actual boxing skills fall short. Experts are emphasizing that his earlier exhibition with Mike Tyson, which generated enormous attention and television revenue, already created serious questions among dedicated boxing enthusiasts about whether this represented sport or merely entertainment. The Joshua fight confirmed all those worries and more, really driving home the reality that there exists a tremendous gap between celebrity boxing and legitimate professional competition. They're documenting with specific statistics that authentic boxing supporters, those who followed the sport for generations, are actively disengaging because they feel their knowledge is being disrespected. The audience numbers for Paul's contest dropped substantially compared to what elite, legitimate matchups like Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford generate, which attract real boxing audiences seeking championship-level skill demonstrations. Certain observers and supporters are even exploring different conspiracy theories regarding the fight's conclusion, wondering whether everything was completely legitimate, though most serious experts reject such speculation. But here's what professionals universally acknowledge. Whether you accept any theories or not, Paul's attraction to serious boxing fans is declining rapidly. The truth remains that depending on entertainment, celebrity status, and marketing excitement, instead of authentic talent and competitive contests, simply cannot sustain a career in legitimate professional boxing anymore. Not when supporters can access real championship boxing and recognize the distinction immediately. Sam Jones provides what could be the most honest and direct response to Jake Paul's loss against Anthony Joshua. And he's not softening his evaluation of what transpired. He confesses directly that the fight was truly difficult to witness. But here's the compelling aspect. It wasn't difficult because of the brutality or violence occasionally seen in boxing, but because it painfully revealed substantial weaknesses in Paul's basic technique and his complete grasp of professional-level competition. Jones stresses with genuine belief that simply surviving a fight, lasting through the rounds, and reaching the final bell absolutely does not equal performing as a skilled boxer who deserves that ring position. He elaborates further, describing that merely avoiding punches when they arrive, grabbing and holding during trouble, or continuously backing up and retreating to prevent engagement. These methods might enable a fighter to survive rounds and avoid early knockouts. But crucially, they do not prove real competitiveness or genuine boxing mastery. He strongly condemns the excessive dependence on these survival tactics, expressing with some irritation that supporters and fighters should prioritize active engagement, strategic offense, and technical excellence far above simply remaining standing and aware until the closing bell. According to Jones, speaking from his background, contests like this really emphasize and reveal the basic distinction between entertainment boxing and authentic sport, proving that survival alone, merely enduring the fight without getting knocked unconscious, does not command respect in the traditional boxing community where ability and courage matter most. His point is that real competition, the type boxing fans have valued for more than a century, demands genuine bravery to accept risks, polished skills developed through years of preparation, and steady technical execution round after round, not merely defensive survival methods. Duke McKenzie offers what could be the most direct and knowledgeable viewpoint on the recent contest between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, and his perspective comes from years of involvement with the sport at championship levels. He stresses immediately that his evaluation and analysis emerges from genuine expertise and professional background rather than personal prejudice or animosity toward either competitor involved. McKenzie contends with quiet confidence that the fight's actual result, what occurred inside that ring, communicates everything without requiring extensive additional analysis or discussion from experts and supporters. The definitive nature of the knockout, how completely and thoroughly it concluded the contest, demonstrates clearly the difference in ability, background, and readiness between these competitors at entirely different levels of the sport. He emphasizes with strong conviction that examining the performance later is not about personally attacking anyone or attempting to diminish Jake Paul as an individual, or even as an overall athlete, but about honestly recognizing the realities of championship-level professional boxing. McKenzie points out, with his characteristic direct manner, that instances like these fights that conclude decisively function as valuable lessons to everyone observing, whether casual supporters or future fighters, regarding the skill level truly necessary to compete at this sport's peak. From his experienced viewpoint, the fight's conclusion alone, simply what happened during those brief minutes, proves beyond reasonable dispute the ability and preparation difference between someone like Joshua, who's competed at elite levels for years, and someone like Paul, who remains relatively new to professional boxing. This renders further argument somewhat pointless in his opinion and genuinely reinforces the basic truth that championship boxing success requires both natural ability and completely demanding experience inside the ring facing elite-level competition. Once the contest concluded and everything calmed down, conversations among experts and supporters rapidly shifted to what Jake Paul's future boxing moves should realistically involve and whether he should continue competing whatsoever. Experts and supporters are recommending, with increasing agreement, that heavyweight division competition, where he's attempted to establish himself, may truly not match him physically or skill-wise. They're identifying the obvious disparities in dimensions, natural power, and accumulated professional experience between him and opponents like Anthony Joshua, who've dedicated their entire adult lives to this training. The obvious mismatch everyone observed inside that ring emphasized brutally the genuine risks of facing fighters who are considerably larger, stronger, and significantly more experienced in elite professional boxing, raising serious safety concerns about his future if he continues this direction. Boxing observers are stressing with real concern that continued competition at this level against these types of opponents might result in additional severe injuries beyond what he's already experienced, potentially creating permanent effects that could impact his life quality for many years ahead. Many knowledgeable voices throughout the sport are strongly suggesting that Paul seriously step away and reconsider his complete boxing approach, potentially redirecting his attention toward weight classes more suitable to his natural physique and current abilities, where he wouldn't face such dramatic physical disadvantages. The wider discussion currently happening truly emphasizes the vital importance of smart career decisions in professional boxing, where physical compatibility with opponents, practical risk evaluation based on skill level, and long-term health factors are equally important, if not more critical than ambition, marketing excitement, and entertainment value for sustainable career development.